All right, everybody. Well, welcome once again to the Rec Poker Podcast, episode 166. And today we're featuring L Cleeton. We're excited to introduce him to some of you who have not heard of him. Great dude, and I think you're going to be excited to hear what he has to say. As always, we are sponsored by Running Aces Racetrack Casino and Hotel, as well as Learn Pro Poker and website AMP. So with that, let's bring him in here. KL, welcome to Rec Poker.
Hey man, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here. Excited to talk some poker with you guys.
Awesome. Well, we like to talk poker, so you've come to the right place. Where are you actually located and calling in from?
Yeah, so I am in central, kind of southern Illinois, basically 200 miles straight south of Chicago and 100 miles straight east of St. Louis. So there's a couple of interstates that cross right there, and right where that is, that's where I'm at. So it's a bunch of nothing around me, but it's okay. It's not a big deal.
Well, it's always fun to chat with other Midwesterners. We talk to a lot of the folks who are out in Vegas or on the East Coast and that sort of thing. And so, it's nice to talk to people who actually know what nothingness is.
Exactly. Well, I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully, next time we have a conversation, it will be when I'm in Vegas. But yeah, I am a big believer that poker is alive and well everywhere you look for it, and I am further proof of that hypothesis.
Nice. Well, let's talk just a little bit here about things that you're involved with. So the folks that aren't aware of L Cleeton, give us a little bit of background on sort of where your life intersects with the poker industry.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people may, if they have been uh, a viewer of poker Twitter or poker YouTube, might remember me from 2017. Daniel Negreanu had the World Series of Poker main event contest where he gave away 3 seats to people who put in video submissions. I was one of the very fortunate people that was the recipient of one of those seats, and actually further was fortunate and was the only one of the 4, the 2 other recipients and then Daniel himself, who actually cashed that year in the main event. So, I mean, not that that means anything, but it was kind of
That's
a funny.
awesome.
It's kind of a funny thing. Yeah, and I am, for those who can't tell, I am I'm a wheelchair user. So basically, what I always describe my disability is I have a form of muscular dystrophy called spinal muscular atrophy, which is just a fancy way of saying that the version of what I have is kind of like being paralyzed from the neck down, but I feel everything. So I just can't move. So like if I have an itch or need a drink or need to go all in or see my cards, I need to have someone actually able to do those things for me. So for those who saw on Twitter or on YouTube, you might notice a guy who's always with me. That's actually my dad, who is my card holder. I'm really fortunate because both my mom and my dad, who are my primary caregivers, also just happen to be my 2 best friends. So that's not always a given, obviously, in like parental, you know, child dynamics. But that is, I ran well in that my parents are really, actually fun people to be around. And obviously that makes sense if they're like, hey, you want to go play poker? Instead of, hey, you want to go get a job at a business? Like, I mean, that's not something that is lost on me, how, I guess, fortunate I am to have that. But all of that is to kind of lead up to where I'm at now. I'm really happy that the world of interconnectivity exists because I get the chance to interact with some of the brightest minds in poker, literally day in, day out, talking with Twitch streamers, the biggest names that you can think of, Orly and Travis Jarosh and Patrick, Egyptian. I'm sorry, it's just Egyptian now, and things like that. And then obviously the lives that goes like Ryan Laplante, who I am very fortunate that I get to be a part of Learn for Poker day in, day out, handling some of the kind of day to day operations with him and his business partner. And because of all of that, I was finally able to realize a goal that I've had for a very long time, which is launching a training app designed to fill a need that I was very frustrated that was not filled whenever I was coming up and like actually taking poker seriously, learning it. I've been playing forever. I mean, hell, I was one of the kids like during the Moneymaker boom that was using an account that was under their parents' name and whatnot. I mean, I think that a lot of people at a certain age identify with that, that experience. And um, later on, as I began to take things more serious, I began to actually want to invest time and energy into being decent and not just a fun type player. I was just I don't want to say, I guess disappointed is the best adjective that I can ascribe to it. Nobody had figured out a way to help aspiring players actually learn ranges. Everybody was giving out ranges. I mean, upswing, raise your edge. Now there's what is it? Fedor's new thing, and Jonathan
Upper code.
Little's.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, every Learn Pro Poker. And I just am heavily involved with Learn Pro Poker. And we have ranges out the wazoo, and they're in the videos. Obviously, Ryan does it a little bit differently because it would not surprise anyone that I'm also a big fan of this, but Learn Pro Poker is going to teach you the GTO as a foundation, but then exploits on top of that. So you go from making a marginal amount of money to making a metric shit ton of money. And
that is actually the correct scientific term, I believe.
it is. I
It
mean,
is,
it's
yeah.
been. I mean, science best practices. No,
It's also it ranges out the wazoo and metric shit
exactly.
tons. These are all standard.
These are all very, very official, non-made up words that I made. But I was so frustrated because in 2016, 2017, or even in 2018, when I kind of just was like, fine, I'll do it myself, and just put in the effort, on an individual level, I still kept coming back to the idea of why hasn't anybody made it easy for people to learn these? Like it's literally the flashcard method is what you're asked to do. You look at a range and then you cover it up and see how closely you can approximate that. Problem is that's not how you play poker. That's not what you're doing at the table. You're not like sitting there closing your eyes, imagining the hand matrix and seeing what falls in a range, it's just not. It doesn't make any logical sense. And so my my prime uh, frustration was finally kind of alleviated as I was able to, finally after a long, long search, get connected with my business partner Matt McDelegate, who is a developing extraordinaire. I mean, he is absolutely just one of the brightest minds I've ever spoken to when it comes to developing. Unfortunately, the dude has a day job, so this is very much a passion project for the both of us. We're hoping that eventually that dynamic changes slightly, but at the end of the day, we've released. We're now in the second kind of version 2.0, if you will. So we're still very early on, but we've released a product in Range Trainer Pro, as you can see in my shameless bug down in the corner. Um,
Yeah,
we've
so Range Trainer Pro, right? That's the website, rangetrainerpro.com.
That is the website, and what we think, or at least what I think we've developed, is something that is easy to use. It's something that my goal, at least, is that it's affordable for a ton of people, because I get that if you're a micro stakes player, that you don't have $1,500 to invest in a training site. How the hell are you going to have a bunch of money to invest in some sort of application? And that just doesn't make any sense. So we've come up with what we hope is a pricing model that is easy to digest for people. Um, and while I'm going to be the first one to tell you that the application itself doesn't actually provide ranges from Range Trainer Pro. What we do is we partner with other people. So, for example, right now, our primary and sole partner is Learn Pro Poker, and we have expanded range sets that you can purchase if you don't want to take the time to input your own and do that
Yeah.
manual process. And those range sets that you might find on other websites from like uh, uh, a service that would sell you ranges, you could pay $1,500 for a package of ranges. We are. I want to be careful how I word this. We're making every effort possible to make our ranges the cheapest ranges available that are proven to be GTO built. They're not like some range that some dude just came up with like a napkin and paper.
Right.
I mean, these are actually time was invested. Effort was put into building, the simulations to give you something that makes sense. Our almost guarantee. I don't want to say guarantee straight up, because I don't know what someone in the future is going to do. But right now, I guarantee you that our ranges are the most affordable on the market. But having said all that, would you guys just like to take a look at it?
Well, I think we're gonna kind of dig into some other strategy stuff. I
Yeah.
think. I mean, just because we have so many, we could talk for hours about this too. We're gonna use it. You've actually made this available to us to kind of try out. We've played with it a little bit, a few of us, and it's fantastic. I mean, it is
I
a
really
fantastic
appreciate that.
tool, especially for a recreational player. Like kind of what you're saying is, people that are super high end playing, mega dollar buy-ins. Who knows what little tweaks they're going to see, but for us recreational players, it's such a great foundation, and you've put in different functionality in there where you can actually play with it a little bit, take some quizzes. I found it to just be absolutely fantastic, and so I think rather than spend the time on the podcast, I think we'll just kind of use it. We actually do like monthly seminars and
Oh,
different things like that.
perfect.
So we actually
Yeah,
want to.
absolutely.
I think where we kind of what we'll do is we'll kind of integrate it into some of the things that we're doing on a regular basis for our members, so they get a feel for how to actually use it in practice. So I think we'll do that. Plus, the podcast is a little bit tricky sometimes because we have most of our folks are just
Yeah,
listening, so
that
it's
makes
hard to
sense.
kind of explain
That
that. So
makes
I thought,
sense.
well, let's show people. But then I thought, no, we have all these other strategy questions we want to ask you too. So
Absolutely.
uh,
Now, I do want to let you guys know, and all the listeners out there. So right now, obviously, you mentioned that the training feature that is inside the subscription service. We're actually in the next major update I say major update because we're constantly doing like little things based on feedback.
Right.
But the next major update, the goal is to build in a equity calculator. So basically, you're going to have a like a Power Equilab or a poker stove in your pocket because the application is already totally optimized for mobile. So if you're on your phone, your tablet, or your computer, it doesn't matter. It's going to know what device you're using, give you the appropriate layout. And so if you're playing live and you're like, what was it? What was my equity versus
Right.
his range? You don't have to like write it down and then go home and try and remember it. You can just do it on break or do it between hands or whatever. And so we're going to do range versus range. We're going to do hand versus range, all sorts of stuff, and implement that. That will be part of the subscription service as well, which for those who have used like Power Equilab, I mean Power Equilab is it's not free. I mean you there is a paid version of it. So our goal is to basically take all of these tools that you would normally have to like shell out for this and shell out for that, and et cetera, et cetera. We want to aggregate it so that way you're able to do as much as humanly possible in one place. So that way you can focus on what you want to focus on, which is improving as a player and building your bankroll because at the end of the day, every dollar you save in training is an extra dollar that you can put in your bankroll to, have more shot takes or more buy-ins or
Yeah.
whatever it is
Yeah.
that you want to do.
Well, no, we love it. Range Trainer Pro guys. So keep your eyes and ears open for that as you're out there listening. We'll put the stuff in our show notes. We're big fans of KL. We're big fans of Range Trainer Pro. So stay tuned to KL. Make sure you just tell us when other updates are coming, and we'll make sure to let our people know. But I do want to transition here a little bit. Chris Jones is the head of our content team, and he's good at picking people's brains as we try to not only provide our audience with great tools and great connections, but also some specific strategy elements for our recreational players to apply. So I'll turn it over to Chris now to ask a couple questions.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Before I jump in, actually, I just wanted to say my experience with Range Trainer Pro 2 is just the thing that I think sets it apart from my perspective is the ability to do the quizzes that you've built, the ability to test yourself. I think there's so often it's just this like sense of just memorizing things and like, oh, well, this range and I've got 40 big blinds and I'm in the cutoff. I can't remember all this stuff, but I think that act of like what this tool has in it is that act of constantly testing yourself and testing your assumptions makes it so that you're not doing that when you're facing it live, which I think is a really great benefit. So for anybody who's looking at it, I think you should look a little deeper. But anyway,
100%.
yeah,
100%. And we put a lot of research into that. That wasn't just like us throwing stuff in the wall, hoping it stuck. There's a lot of research that says that what you just mentioned, the act of actually doing it, basically puts it into your muscle memory.
Right.
Even if you consider your brain a muscle, which I do, so yeah, we've done a lot of scientific figuring out what is optimal, and that's what we've landed on. So I'm really happy that is the experience that you had.
And actually, I want to take a step back to this whole idea about ranges in general. And in fact, it came up this weekend. I was playing in a tournament. There's a person, and this I think is a common sort of thing that comes up among recreational players. And I was not involved in this. I just overheard two players talking to each other, and one of them said to the other, "Oh, I think you probably should have called there because your range should be blah blah blah." And the other player said back to him, "I don't believe in any of that range nonsense. That's a bunch of hooey or whatever." Although he said worse language there, but so I don't think we probably want to change that player's mind. But if we did, if we cared enough to change that player's mind, how would you try to start to describe to a player who says, "I don't believe in any of that range nonsense"?
Well, I think the first thing to understand is that poker is a game of incomplete information. And because poker is a game of incomplete information, it's important that we take in as much information that we do have in order to, guide our decisions to make what we perceive as the most optimal play. And so when we're talking about ranges, I think that whether people want to admit it or not, on a subconscious level, everyone thinks in terms of ranges. Whether they realize they are or not, that they kind of do just because it's instinct. Anybody who's played more than a few thousand hands of poker and studied for any amount, or even not even studied, just played 1-3 for more than 40 hours in their lifetime. I mean, there's not a very high bar for this. You immediately begin to realize that, okay, in certain situations, there are hands that an opponent just cannot have ever. Like an opponent is always going to, okay, not always, I should never use definitives, but almost always or almost never going to not four bet aces when there is a three bet pot. Like that's just such a rare occurrence that you can essentially tell yourself, okay, they don't have aces here. And so whether you want to admit that or not, you've immediately created a range because now your range is essentially three deuce off to kings. Yes, it may be literally every hand in the deck, not including aces, but it's still a range of hands. You may not define that in your own brain. You may not give it that term. I put that in air quotes, but you have. And so I agree with you. I don't know that it's a valuable venture to try to change the person's mind. But what I think you could do is make the person realize that they're actually thinking in terms of ranges, but maybe giving it a different name, or maybe giving it a different logical identifier, which I guess is a fancy way of saying name. But I mean, yeah, they're unintentionally thinking in the exact terms that they are, consciously poo-pooing, if you will. That's a technical term.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, and so this whole logic of, well, I put you on ace king. I mean, uh, no, you don't. I'm sorry. You don't. I mean, that may be part of a set of hands that you think I have, but like, for example, here's a really good example. I play online a lot because I live 100 miles from the nearest program. So I play online whenever I'm grinding, a ton. Whenever I see a 3-bet jam for like 75 big blinds, you know what I almost always say? That's ace king. But what I actually mean is that's ace king or jacks. Because when you think about it, people don't like that is the set of hands that people had trouble with. Nines are kind of beginning to make their way into that paradigm as well. But like you can assign a range to given action. And the reason I can say that with some degree of certainty is because I've seen it dozens and dozens and dozens of times. This isn't some, like, oh, I would do this, so I think they're doing this. This is, okay, I've seen enough people and spoke with enough people and even coached a few people that have said, I don't know how to play jacks. I don't want to fold them free. I don't want to call. And I don't want to 3-bet less than all in. I'm all in. And it's like, okay, I understand what you're saying, but you need to understand that just because those words form a sentence doesn't mean it makes sense. And I don't want to sound condescending, and I'm very sorry if I do, because that's not my intention. But I guess my point is this: when we're thinking in terms of ranges and thinking in terms of what is optimal and what is not optimal, it's so important to remove one thing. If you can remove one thing, you're going to make better decisions. And that one thing is emotion. I know that's really hard to like swallow because humans are emotional beings. We're not robots. We have feelings. We get, you know, dopamine and serotonin rushes that cause, highs, lows, and all sorts of these roller coasters. I did it. I really do. I'm not immune to it. Just because I play a bunch of poker doesn't mean I don't go on the roller coaster ride. But what I've figured out, and I can't tell you how to do it because no two people are the same, but what I've figured out for me is that two things really changed the way I thought about emotions in poker. One, everybody says it, but it really is true: meditation, guided meditation. And I know some like hard ass and, like farmhand that is an awesome, badass dude. He's like 320 and like, I'm not gonna meditate, and he's a a really just don't mess with that guy. But if you can like kind of get beyond the stigma of it, which is that it's this kind of fancy pants city boy thing. I'm not from the city. I live in a town of 12,000. I live in a tiny ass town. We have two things. We have churches and bars. That's what we have. Okay? And I think anybody from the Midwest can probably identify with that. And so, don't take it from some dude that lives in the suburbs and goes to hot yoga. I mean, that's not me. I'm not that person. Even if I could be, I wouldn't.
You seem more like a goat yoga guy.
Yeah, I'm a goat yoga guy.
That's kind of where I was thinking.
That's actually how I ended up in a wheelchair. It was a terrible goat yoga accident.
Yeah.
It was awful. Oh my god.
Go on, I want to hear the story. Oh no.
See, this is why I love you guys. You guys actually knew that was a joke, and to laugh at it, you wouldn't believe how many times some people are like, is that a joke? Are you serious? What are you saying? But I guess to sum up my little diatribe, if you will, forgive the long-winded response. Emotion is the number one optimal killer. It's going to take you away from doing what is the best line of, in that situation. If you can get over the emotion, you're going to make more money and you're going to make better decisions.
So another thing I often hear from recreational players too is sort of this idea that, well, if I spend all this time learning these opening ranges, what am I supposed to open in each position versus what stack size I have? But the problem is that I'm playing at sort of a lower stakes tournaments where people aren't playing that way themselves. So I have this person who there's like 3 limps in front of me and somebody's raised, and now what do I do? Now what do I do with those opening ranges that I learned? Because now I've got some hand that maybe I'm supposed to open if everybody folds to me, but I've got all this mess in front of me from all these players who don't know what they're doing.
Yep.
So what do I do?
So that is a really, really great question. And the reason it's a great question is because I struggled with that forever. I struggled with the I'm not gonna lie, I'm still an improving player. I'm not good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I might be better than some people, but I'm not Ryan Laplante. I'm not, Bono. I'm not Sondheimer. I play $15 MTTs online.
You're not Washam. Hi, Rob. That's Rob up there.
But I identified that on a really personal level. And what I finally figured out, with the help of some serious coaching and conversations with people who were admittedly a billion times smarter than I am, was that when we talk about GTO, in my mind, that is the foundation. If you think of poker or a poker hand like a house, GTO is like your concrete pour. It's the part of the house that if that part isn't strong, when you build the first floor, like the whole thing's out the whole part. You're just it's 2 years later, and you're like, why is the south wall gone? Well, because somebody spit on it. That's why. Like so, GTO is the foundation, right? But whenever people deviate from GTO, that's when the exploits happen, and that's when a hand that maybe wasn't an open, now it becomes a great ISO because of its blockers and playability post flop, or because people overfold to to an ISO. Or if you have a table that's exceedingly loose, a hand that wasn't open now becomes an overlimp or maybe even a fold, but our ISO range, because they're calling way too much, now basically just becomes like, ace king and jacks plus. And so I guess the hard answer, and it's unfair, is that you have to understand what the table is like and then adjust your ranges accordingly, which is really hard because the only way you can do that is with time and study and, practice, which obviously practice in poker is expensive because you're paying to play the game. Now, obviously, uh, our app, at least what I'm hopeful, is that people will begin to, as we release the next update, which is going to implement training for, I'm sorry, I'm going to back up, all right? I
Yep.
didn't know if you heard my dog.
Well, that's all right. Oh, don't worry about that. We don't edit much. I thought it was just John making some noise there. I didn't realize it was your dog.
No, it's my pet.
Oh, don't worry about that. We don't like to edit. We're
Okay,
good.
no,
We don't mind dogs barking. Anybody mind dogs barking here? Anybody? All right. We're good with dogs barking.
Just so you know, we are expecting someone to come home here in a few minutes, so I might mute myself really quickly.
No worries.
But so I'm just gonna back up a little bit, and when we release the next version, we're gonna implement things like someone ahead of us opened, and now what's our 3-bet range? Someone ahead of us limped. Now what's our ISO range? What's our calling overlimping range? Oh, 2 people ahead of us limped. Oh, now what's our ISO range? Now what's our over limp range? All sorts of things like that. So um, all that to say that yes, real play, real life play is still absolutely going to be the best way to learn and improve at that exact adjustment, that real time kind of feedback that you're getting from the other people at the table and how they are responding. But having said all that, what we're hoping is people will be able to use the app to augment that aspect for no money. Well, okay, not no money, but just the price of a subscription. Because at the end of the day, $7 or $8 is a lot less expensive than a $350 buy-in in a live tournament, or even a bunch of dollar buy-ins online. And so, what we are hoping, I don't want to say expecting, but what we're hoping is that people will be able to find the right balance between perfectly replicating what their ranges, I put ranges in air quotes, but what their ranges say to do, and then how you should deviate those. Because at the end of the day, the range is just the foundation. You still have the whole rest of the house that you need to build. Your stop is your first floor, and turn is the bathroom, and so on and so forth. So don't even though I made this app to help people learn their ranges, don't get stuck in this rut of, well, the range said to do this, so that's what I'm going to do. Don't do that, because I want everyone to have a solid foundation so they can make better decisions. I can't guarantee you're going to make more money, because I don't control variance. I don't control how often you get aces, or how often you lose the kings versus aces. But what I can hopefully be a little part of is how often and how easy it is for you as a user to study. And if it's easier and more efficient for you to study, you're going to make better decisions. And hopefully, in the long term, you're going to make more money and have more fun. Because at the end of the day, poker is a game, and it's supposed to be fun. It's hard to be fun whenever you feel like you're totally getting, just bumped over the head like a mole and whack-a-mole, But put a tiny bit of away from the table studying, an hour a week, even just a little bit, can have a big impact in how enjoyable the game is.
Well, that's what we talk about a lot about. A lot of us are recreational players. A lot of us are playing for fun. That's our primary objective. But after a while, it turns out that it is more fun to win. So there's still that piece of trying to learn the game, and that's where, like, what you've developed here is something that's going to help us, do the work off the felt so that we can make better decisions on the felt, which means higher ROI, which means more enjoyment, frankly, because we're winning more.
More fun, because now you have more tournament
more
buy-ins
success.
to go play more tournaments. Exactly. I mean, we're not all Bill Perkins out here with, just racks on racks. I love Bill.
I thought you also owned a yacht on an island. Is that not true? That's kind of why we wanted to have you on, because we thought you owned a yacht on an island. We thought.
See, everybody confuses that. See, I have a Yahtzee board.
The Yahtzee board. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is, exactly. So it's handmade.
It is. Okay, so you hand make Yahtzee games. Okay.
Exactly.
And I thought I heard somebody say you had a yacht. I guess we're done here.
That's to talk to you.
No. Well, we actually are starting to run out of time, but I want to open it up to the panel and see. I don't know, Chris, if you had anything, John or Rob, or if you had anything else that you wanted to ask. We probably got time for one more question. We try to keep the episodes down, and we could talk to you for hours, but I want to see if anybody else has a burning question for you. Rob, you got something?
I was just going to say thanks for coming on. You answered my question. I thinking ahead what I was going to ask, and you've already answered it with the discussion that we've had. So I really enjoyed listening to you and what your software does. I haven't tried the software yet, but I do plan on trying it. I'm anxious to try it. And like I say, you did answer my question, so thank you very much, KL.
And no worries. Now, what you don't know is I have a bug in your living room. So don't worry. Somebody will be there later to just grab that whenever a suited man shows up. Don't mind them. It's just, grabbing the bug. It's fine.
It's really, I'm really kind of disappointed, KL, because I thought you actually had a sense of humor, and I'm starting to feel like you don't. I'm really disappointed in the fact that
you know who my idol is Ron Swanson. I don't smile ever.
From Parks and Rec?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I was just eating dinner, and my family likes to watch episodes of Parks and Rec, and literally we just watched an episode of that, and right where Andy outed him as Duke Silver. So, it's seriously.
That's amazing.
Well,
I really appreciate you guys having me on. I had a blast. I hope that maybe as we do some new updates and whatnot, we can maybe jump back on and talk some more strategy. And I'd love to keep you guys apprised of what's going on with Rinse Pro. And I'd love to, if I ever make it up into the Minnesota area for a tournament or whatever, I'd love to maybe have a real life podcast sit down.
That would be absolutely a blast. And we're talking about like taking rec poker on the road too, and like visiting different local casinos. And so forever and down in your neck of the woods, it'd be fun to connect that way and actually meet 3-dimensional KL. I mean, I see once in a while I get to meet these guests that we have on, and all I know of them is 2 dimensions. And so it's nice to actually put a third dimension to people. So no, we would love to. We'd love to do that. And actually, I think it'd be interesting to at some point maybe do a special recording with you for us and for our members where we're just focusing on using the tool, and we can make that recording available, kind of a sort of a tutorial on how to use the tool and promote the usage of the tool. So we could do that as a separate thing outside of the podcast where we actually video record that. So I think that might be an interesting next step for us as well.
Absolutely. And I'm open to all sorts of stuff. We've got lots of new features that I can't unfortunately share publicly.
Oh, come on.
But what I could do is I could tell you guys after the pod, and everybody who's listening now will have to pester you about
nice. Thank you. Thanks. We don't get pestered enough.
But I mean, I think give you a little promo. You can tease it, tease the rec poker and all of the hordes of people that are yearning to find out more about you guys. Will be pestering you with all sorts of
they'll be pestering us with questions about what's going on with your program rather than telling us bad beat stories. So that's actually going to be a good thing for us.
And for that service, I only charge $1.
I know you're cheaper than I am, so I'll send them to you. So let me ask you this. So as we kind of wrap up here, what's the best way for people to connect with you, or if they're saying I would actually like to hear directly when there's updates? Is there a mailing list? Is it through Twitter? What's kind of the best way to connect with you?
So right now, actually, the application, you can create a free account. It's totally free, and what you can do is the free account, you can actually save an unlimited number of what we call basic ranges. What that means is that the range is just A/B. It's either play or fold. There is no frequency, but you can make an unlimited number of those. Obviously, the subscription gets you the weighted aspect, and then the training feature and the equity calculator, whenever we release that, et cetera, et cetera. However, if you make the account, all you have to input is your email and then make a password. And then with that, we're going to be using that list of folks to reach out and share updates and obviously share promotions whenever we have price drops and things like that. So yeah, that's absolutely the best way. Go to rangetrainerpro.com and hit sign up, make your account, and boom, you are good to go.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll put that link in the show notes as well. Or obviously, if anybody's listening to this and you missed it, reach out to us and we'll pass that information along to you as well. So any parting words, KL, as we let you go?
Oh, I think I've done my Lord of the Rings impersonation with 5 false endings already. So I will just go ahead and say thank you very much for you guys having me on. Thank you to everyone who listened to the podcast. If this was your first time listening to Rec Poker, go back to episode 1 and binge all of them all the way through because they're all absolutely magnificent. You guys have an amazing show, and I'm just really privileged that you let me come on.
Well, thanks, Cal. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to meet you again after hearing all these great things, and really, really enjoyed the conversation. It just flew by. So we'll get you on again at some point.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good one, and thanks a lot again.
All right, take care. All right, well, there he goes, L Cleeton. That was fantastic. Super fun to meet him in person, I guess, so to speak. Get a chance to chat with him, and he's got no shortage of passion for what he's working on. That's for sure. What'd you guys take away from that?
He's got a hell of a sense of humor, doesn't he?
He does. I love that dry humor.
Yeah, and he doesn't take himself too seriously, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, John.
Well, and his attitude, his passion for it is just, it's very clear. He loves poker and he's very passionate about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's move into some updates, some announcements, that sort of thing. Chris, what do you got on the content side of things that folks at Rec Poker Nation need to know about?
Well, yeah. So our first member seminar is up and running. The position and stack awareness seminar that we ran, and we're running through February, and we're getting ready for March. So that's really exciting. And for those of you who are local to Running Aces, February 29th is Rec Poker Day at Running Aces. And we're really excited for that. It's going to be a full day of you can win tournament lammers. There's going to be 2 tournaments going on. There's going to be a free play and learn. Anyone who's wearing Rec Poker gear is going to be eligible to win prizes. It's going to be a really good day. So
some of us will be there like at 8 a.m. if you want to come and have breakfast with us and just hang out. Yeah, it's going to be super fun.
So I believe they have a flyer that's being posted soon with all the details. But save the date. I think it would be great if we had a big turnout for that. It'd be great to just kind of come together, celebrate this community, celebrate each other, and have some good times playing poker together.
Yeah, and you know, we had just a little glimpse of that this last weekend. So I went up north to Grand Casino Mille Lacs with George and Roger and Bob, and we ran into Rob up there. And it was just the 5 of us up there, and we had so much fun, just the banter and having that sense of community, right? And I think the deal at Running Ace is going to be even bigger when we have all of these people that kind of know each other and have sweatshirts on or hats on and that sort of thing. So if you do have Rec Poker gear, wear it. If you want some, you can get it there, but it should just be a blast. And if you haven't done a play and learn before, either with us or on your own, they're super fun. And so that'll be we should be able to do that right on the poker room floor, and get to meet some new people doing that as well. So good times for sure. All right, and then you mentioned the seminars out there too, and then we do have what's the date of the Q&A for members? You can actually come on. We're going to be doing a live Q&A panel discussion at the end of the month on that.
Yeah, it's going to be Wednesday. I'm just hold on.
Yeah, I think it's the 26th.
Wednesday, February 26th, from 8 to 9 p.m. will be the member Q&A. So if you're not a member yet, you can sign up. It's a free month trial. You can download that first seminar, watch it, come up with your great questions or some exercises that we're encouraging everyone to do. And then we'll all be here on the 26th to go through a live Q&A with anyone who shows up. Awesome.
All right, Rob, what's going on with the book study?
Well, last Wednesday we finished up with Chapter 8 of Andrew Brokos's book, Play Optimal Poker. And really excited for this Wednesday, 6:30. We are actually going to have the opportunity to talk to Andrew Brokos and ask him questions about what we learned or what we thought we learned or what we hoped we'd learned. So it should be a great time to be able to talk to Andrew. He's such a smart guy, and he presents the poker information in such a way that you can really understand it. I've been listening to Brokos since maybe not as long as John has, but I've been listening to Thinking Poker for a long, long time, and to get the opportunity to talk to Andrew is really, really an honor. So be there Wednesday. If you're not a member, become a member. You can get a free membership for a month. You can join in the chat and ask your questions right to Andrew himself. So I'm really excited, looking forward to that.
And do you think there would be value for, even if you haven't read the book, if you're a member, to come in there and just, listen to the conversation and, you can still ask questions and stuff, right? You don't have to have read the book or participated in our book study.
Oh, I agree 100%. Just because of the way Andrew presents information, I think it's going to be very accessible to anybody, whether they've read the book or not. So, yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, if nothing else, just to listen to Andrew talk.
Yeah, right. I know, right. Yeah, well, thanks. I know you've been heavily involved in that. Cheyenne Bhattacharya has been leading that discussion. It's been a fantastic discussion. So thanks for all your work on that deal.
Been fun.
Rob, what do you got, or John, what do you got for our home game update?
Well, first and foremost, we've passed a critical marker. We now have 100 home game members.
Woohoo!
Shane Sykeward, I think that's how you pronounce it.
That just seems appropriate for us to get our 100th member with somebody named Sykeward. Right?
Yeah. Well, anyway, Shane Sykeward was our 100th member. And, of course, we are going to be having our No Limit Deuce to 7 single draw game on this Wednesday, February 12th. And there is a YouTube video available that gives you at least the rules of the game so you aren't going in totally blind. It's probably not going to make you a world-class player at it, but you'll at least know the rules. But I'm really looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun.
And just on that thing real quick, so actually I had a conversation with Bernard Lee today of all things, and I brought this, he asked about what we were doing with this PokerStars home game, and I told him about it, and he said if it wasn't his league night that night, he would have joined us and played with us online because he loves Deuce to 7. So he's another resource for us at some point that we're going to have to tap to learn some mixed games. Yeah,
I've listened to his podcast, and he talks about that's one of his favorite games every year at the World Series is Deuce to 7.
Yeah. I think he finished runner-up in a bracelet event one time.
Yep.
Yep. But then we had a winner from last week, right?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot the most important thing.
Jake the Snake would come after me, man, if I didn't mention this.
Yeah,
running Aces guy.
Ingebrigtsen won the No Limit Hold'em home game. And I think our previous winner came in fourth, who was Steve Olson. And now he's sitting – he has a pretty commanding chip lead there. So we need some other people to come in and give him some competition so that we can have a good Player of the Year points race in these tournaments.
I was hoping to give him some competition, but I failed.
Well, that's why we need other people.
Right, exactly. Fair point. Yeah.
I played both tournaments, and I'm not giving any competition either. So.
Oh, you're up there. Aren't you like in the top 5?
Well, yeah, but not. It's still a long ways from first.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Can you be a little more humble, John, please? Try to be a little more humble.
I'll try.
No, that's good stuff. And thanks again for putting that together. A lot of people are enjoying that. And we had another, 40-some players, but you said 100 now people signed up, which is super cool. And we continue to get last-minute requests. I know you and I, John, both, I've gotten a number of requests at 8 o'clock when it's starting saying, hey, how do I get into this thing? So if you're listening to the podcast, take steps now. Go to rec.poker/ I think it's home game. If not, it's right in the menu at the top. And there's all the instructions there, hopefully well detailed. Get signed up, get your free points, get all that stuff that you need to do in advance. Make sure that the system is installed or whatever beforehand so that when you're ready, you're ready to go when the time comes. Because we had a few people I know miss out this time because they were just kind of doing it last minute. So I know poker players like to wait till the last minute. I want to encourage everybody out there listening, do it as fast as you can.
Yeah, and it appears that after I approve you in the home game group, it might take a few minutes for that to get propagated so that you realize you're actually approved and can sign up. Right. So you need to leave a little extra lead time for that.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for your leadership on that deal. So let's go to some of our other updates and announcements. Running Aces Player of the Week. I got it this week. I'm super excited. 3 tournaments I was able to play. Ended up with a min cash in one and a 5th place in another, and then or a 2nd place in the $100 free zone on Friday. And then Mr. Jones was very gracious, knocking 3 or 4 people out at the final table to get me to 5th place in another one. But so Player of the Week, I was able to take that down. Daniel Stewart, Bill Goebel, Joe Big Bear, who also tied with Andy Feist, who's a big part of Rec Poker Nation, and Randy Smith. So there's your Running Aces Players of the Week from last week. And some binks. We're getting more binks. And if you want your bink broadcast on the Rec Poker podcast, make sure you can email me if you want. Otherwise, out on Discord is the easiest way. There's a bink channel. Put it out there. But Brian Soja, the $75 bounty tournament at Running Aces. Way to go, Soja. He plays LTO. That's his thing. Luck Theory Optimal. That's what he likes. That's what he calls his LTO strategy. Chris Jones, whose name we're going to hear a few times, and you've already heard him on the podcast. Pretty good week for Mr. Jones, at least what I saw out there. So he had a $90 qualifier. Chris, that you ran into the 350, so you qualified for the Love of Money. More information to follow on that. Then on February 4th, Brian Morey was out in Milwaukee at the WSOP circuit. He had a nice run out there. Let's see, what did he do? I think he won the nightly deep stack. He won a qualifier into a $600 tournament. He had another qualifier, like $75 into $400. So he had a really nice run out there in Milwaukee. So be the kid. Way to go out there in Milwaukee. Michael Babker, a qualifier, 90 into 350. Jacob Jakovic, who is Ovi Kenobi online, had another bink. Chris Jones, let's come back to Chris, shall we? So for the Love of Money, Chris, you qualified into For the Love of Money, and then you ran deep. I don't know, how many entries were there in total out of that tournament?
It's like 409 or so, I think.
409. So a $350 tournament that you got into for $90, and you ran it all the way to 12th place, which was fantastic, right? I mean, good.
It was great. It was great.
You're always disappointed, right? But you got you entered day 2 with like 45th in chips, right?
Yeah, it was 45th. I only had 10 big blinds or so going into day 2. So it was a nice little run. I had a quick double up to start, queens into 8s, and then it kind of just kept spiking from there.
That was super fun because you know, if you're not on Discord, this is one of the reasons we love Discord, because Chris is putting some updates on there about how he's doing, and you know, the whole community is kind of rallying behind him. And I had a chance to go down there and kind of rail you, even though I got sucked into playing the double stack. But it was fun just to see that run, and obviously we were hoping you'd go even deeper. But fantastic run there. Another guy who's part of the Rec Poker Nation is Troy Graffentine, and he actually ran all the way up to 5th place. So Troy, you know, outdid Chris a little bit there, but good runs from those guys. And Dave Elke, I want to give you a shout out too. I know we've chatted a bit about Rec Poker, and he finished in 17th. Tom Herman in 30th, and Steve Webb in 42nd. So a nice little representation there in that big Running Aces tournament over the weekend. And then Chris, we'll end up binks with you again because who loves it more, right? So Chris plays 8.5 hours on Friday, has a day out, comes back for day 2 on Sunday, plays for – what time did you get knocked out, do you think? 6?
Yes, 6, 5:36, something like that.
So a noon star gets knocked out at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, says, let's just rebuy into the double stack. Oh, and since we're going to play the $150 double stack, why don't we win it? And so he just goes ahead and wins that too. So it's a pretty good weekend for you there, Chris.
Yeah, it was a good Sunday.
So congratulations on that deal. Anybody know of any other binks that we should be chatting about? Anybody have any others? All right. Well, make sure you submit those, man. They're fun because we just love to celebrate this thing together. You know, we're learning the game together. So if you're plugged into Rec Poker Nation, you're one of us. Sorry, that's just how it is. And we want to celebrate all of our stuff together. So some other things coming up. Chris already mentioned Running Aces. We're having our Rec Poker Day. That's going to be super fun. Saturday, February 29th. 8 in the morning, we'll start showing up. We'll have all kinds of stuff going on. Just be around. It's just going to be a blast. Play the tournaments. Should be a good time. We're also starting some home game reporting. We're playing with this a little bit. We're going to tease this out a little bit. So if you have a home game that you would like to have some people come or somebody come and do some live reporting on that, we're actually going to be doing some of that. And so just reach out to me directly. It's not formalized yet, but we can chat about that. Some folks have said, hey, that would be super fun to actually have somebody taking pictures and give a chip count updates and kind of making it feel special, especially if you have like a year-end tournament. So reach out if you want to approach that. And we're also starting some of these Rec Poker road trips or caravans as well. There's groups of people. We kind of put out a teaser, and I've got a lot of direct messages from people who have said, if you ever want to go on a road trip, we want to go with you. And so we're actually looking for like host casinos now. And I think what we're looking to do is say, let's just take a road trip to a casino for a weekend, rally the people from Minnesota, rally the people that are in the area of the casino, and we'll just kind of invade the thing, kind of like our Rec Poker Day at Running Aces, and just have a blast at the casino. So we're in conversations right now with a couple of casinos about, you know, maybe giving us some hotel rooms or something to bring a group of people and just have a blast and spend a bunch of money in their casino and do all that stuff. So if you are in an area and you have a connection to a casino, ask them, start talking to them about it. It'd be very, very fun to do that. And that gives us an excuse then to get in our cars and come visit more of Rec Poker Nation. So it'll be really fun. But if you have some connections, let us know. We'd love to do that a little bit as well. And normally Jim does some of our announcements here. Jim couldn't make it tonight. It's like the first time I think he hasn't made a podcast. But if I was Jim, I would remind you that you can connect with us at rec.poker, get on the email list, Discord, Facebook, Twitter, all sorts of ways that you can get connected with us. And coming up next couple of weeks, Ed Miller on February 17th and Maria Ho on February 24th. So some really cool conversations coming up there as well. If you want to support us, Patreon is a great place to do it. Otherwise, just, like us, rate us, review us, share us, all that kind of jazz you can do for us. So before I sign off, guys, anything else that we didn't say that we need to reiterate? Anything else? Shaking heads? Nothing? Good to go? All right, guys. Well, once again, thanks to Running Aces Racetrack Casino Hotel. They are our official sponsor for all things Rec Poker, and then specifically for the podcast, Learn Pro Poker and website AMP. So with that, everybody, we will sign off, and we will chat next week with Ed Miller, and we'll see y'all then.